Hello, everyone, and welcome today to Activating Your Quantum Mind Power with Maury Zelkovich. We're going to be talking about some shortcut secrets to instantly eliminate self-doubt, boost brain power, and possess the keys to your personal wealth. So welcome, Maury, and thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Tammy. I can't tell you how excited I am to help people to help themselves.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to give everybody a little bit of background on you before we get started. Maury Zelkovich is the world's first and only brainwave entrainment engineer. He's the creator of a new proprietary technology and methodology which uses sound to evoke certain brainwave states and which helps the listener to experience truly beneficial results. The Maury method is a specially designed audio recording system that incorporates brainwave entrainment as well as other audio neural technologies. The goal is to help you increase your brain power. For example, you can increase your concentration and enthusiasm while reducing your stress and anxiety. And that's just one of the very few things you can do. And it allows you to easily master your mind power and completely transform your life automatically. And you simply listen. There's no other effort required, which makes it really, truly amazing. So this technology serves the brain and the mind, and it can really be applied to and potentially improve and optimize literally any part of the human experience. And this can be customized for whatever experience you want to make better. So today during this webinar, we're going to show you how to really make your brain work for you and improve any area of your life. You'll learn how to unlock your inner potential so you can easily achieve your goals. It's going to be so amazing, so we don't want you to miss a thing. And to make sure you get the most out of this webinar, please close down your social media, silence your phone, shut the door, and turn off any other distractions that may deter you from participating today. Get that glass of water, get a pencil and pen so you're ready if you want to take some notes. Now, are you ready to get started? Go over to the chat window and type yes if you're ready. And then once we see that everybody's joined and on here, we're going to get started. So we're going to have a fun time. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead and type over in the chat window yes if you're ready to get started. So Maury, what can the quantum mind method help our listeners do?
That's a great question. You know, the human brain is a wonderful tool. It can be used for good. It can be used for not so good. So what we do with the quantum mind method is we actually push it into the direction where it benefits you, where your thought processes actually help you. When you have a thought, a negative thought, a positive thought, that actually creates brainwave activity, and that brainwave activity creates chemistry. That chemistry is actually what allows you to feel what you feel and perceive what you perceive. One person can perceive something as horrible, another person can perceive it as neutral. Still, someone else might even perceive it as positive. What the quantum mind method does is it literally recalibrates or tunes your brain, or what I call the engine of your life, because that is what your brain is. Your brain is the source of all the electrical activity that constitutes your mind. When you control your mind, you control your perception of the universe around you. When you control your perception of the universe, you find that life gets a whole lot better. Unfortunately, most of us go through our lives feeling out of control. Worse yet, feeling like we have no control. If our lives aren't going the way we want, we are inundated in the news media and in social media and all over the place that it's always our fault. It's something we need to do differently. The truth of the matter is, I don't believe that's true. I think that comes from a social convention which says authority doesn't ever want to be perceived as bad or wrong, so let's make the individual think that they are bad or wrong instead. And they don't really care about you, they care about themselves. So my theory and my philosophy is it's time for you to care about you, because if you don't, no one else will. And it's really, really important to understand that. Now, it's nice to say, but then the trick is, okay, how do I do that? Because now I've been brought up my entire life thinking it's my fault, when now Maury's telling me it isn't my fault. Well, that's where the quantum mind method comes in, because it allows you to subtly change your brainwave activity. By changing your brainwave activity from its reflexive learned response to something that is a new learned response but beneficial to you, instead of blaming you, you are now able to perceive things differently. As you perceive things differently, you will naturally take different action. Your body physiologically will react differently. Your mind will react differently as well. When you include all of this into a ball of experience, or a ball of energy, if you will, that energy suddenly starts leading you to light. It literally leads you to the promised land, where you are naturally supposed to go. You feel good. Feeling good feels good. Yeah. Feeling bad feels bad. That's the point. Nature institutes this just like a red light on the dashboard of your life. If you drive your car and the oil light or the check engine light comes on, and you take a piece of electrical tape and you stick it over so you can't see it, so you're basically ignoring it, well, eventually it's going to cause you major problems. Your car's going to stop working. Maybe your engine seizes thousands and thousands of dollars. Maybe the car's even gone beyond fixing. It's the same thing with your life. When we are distracted by having tape over the real cause of our problem, as opposed, which is our perception, as opposed to being told it's something and just blindly believing, that's where we lose our power. That's where we lose our effectiveness and our ability to help ourselves. It doesn't matter who's in power in government. It doesn't matter who your parents are, how much money you have. You have control, because the only thing anyone has, whether you're a billionaire, whether you're on welfare, it doesn't matter. All of us have today. And when you use something like the quantum mind method, it literally does take you to the promised land, because what it really does is it takes you by the hand and it walks with you like a friend to a better place. It's a place that you naturally would go to if you didn't have all this stress and all this misinformation being thrown at you all the time. But because you do, you need this friend. You need this friend to take you by the hand and to gently and in a very friendly manner. You see, it's not programming you. It's not changing you by its own means. In other words, I'm not a genius who's saying, take this, I know what to do. Look at me, I'm wonderful, right? You can be wonderful too. The truth is, you already are wonderful, and all this does is, it kind of like exercises the brain. Your brain is a muscle. At least that's how I look at it. It may not be a muscle the way a quadricep is, but it is a muscle. And the more you exercise any muscle, the stronger it gets. But not just stronger, it also gets better able to do things, and to do things that are over and above what you did to get it strong in the first place. So when you use the quantum mind method, you're not just using it to help yourself or to get stronger, but you're using it to train your brain to be able to do all of this by itself. So now you're in a situation where you find yourself under stress, or you would normally find yourself under stress. Maybe you find yourself panicking, but now you're not, because your brain has been trained. So reflexively, instead of going to that negative, it's turning the other way and naturally going to a positive. That's the biggest problem I have with people who are my clients. They have such a hard time understanding that we don't notice good in our lives. But boy, do we notice what we define as bad. And that's what brainwave entrainment, when it's positive, properly engineered, does for you. It literally conditions you to be better than you currently are, and more in the direction of who you're meant to be. Again, I alluded to being happy feels good, being sad doesn't feel good. That's the red light on the dashboard. That's telling you if you're doing the right thing, you're happy. If you're doing the wrong thing, you're sad. It's not that you're bad for doing the wrong thing. This is how we learn. This is our experience.
So that was awesome, Maury. And who doesn't want to be a better version of themselves, or a happier version, or both, like you said. So everybody, I want you, if you're ready to learn how to transform your life, how to be that happier version, how to be a better version of yourself, go ahead and type ready into the chat window and we'll get started.
And if you don't type ready, I'll go for a nap. It's been a long day.
We don't want that. We want to hear more from Maury. So go ahead and type ready in there. Maury, I know you put together a special gift for everyone just for showing up today. So let's tell them a little bit about what that is.
Sure. This is actually a very unique recording. It's called Stability, Serenity, and Well-Being. And its origins are interesting because I was contacted a couple of years ago from a doctor in the United States who does a lot of surgery, and he was finding that his patients were really nervous all the time. And I guess his bedside manner wasn't the best. So he asked me if I could create something for him that he could share with them to help them be calmer. Maybe sleep a little better a few nights before the surgery, because people get nervous when they're expecting and they know what to expect. So I created Stability, Serenity, and Well-Being. And one of the reasons why this is such a unique recording is most recordings are generally a single thing and that's it. Even if it's a hypnosis or a meditation or anything like that, it usually follows a timeline. It's one specific topic and we're done. Well, Stability, Serenity, and Well-Being are all kind of integrative. It's almost like a nice web being weaved together. And when you can combine them together in that order, literally stability, serenity, and well-being, it has a cumulative effect on the psyche and on the conscious and the unconscious mind. So what I did was I did a lot of research, and I found generalized brainwave activities that seem to be relatively common among adults. It doesn't matter what origin you're from. You can be from anywhere in the world. It has nothing to do with culture at all, just physiological responses. And it turns out there's specific frequencies that seem to be common to people when they're feeling stable or grounded, when they're feeling serene or calm, and then, of course, having a sense of well-being. And these are all things you want pre-surgery. You also want these post-surgery, so it worked out very nicely for both cases. So stability, serenity, and well-being is created in a tiered effect. So first, you go through a section where it takes you to a state that helps you feel more stable, more grounded. Then it takes you to becoming more serene and, of course, a sense of well-being. And that just kind of fades away. And the idea is that it leaves your brain in that kind of a state of feeling calm and sedative and feeling good. Mm-hmm. And when you feel this way, your body's energies, healing energies, personal energies, personality, everything has more to work with. And the more it has to work with, the better it can do. So this was designed not just to help people feel better before and after, but it was designed to help them with the whole process of healing, both from a psychological, because there's trauma. Mm-hmm. There's obvious trauma involved here. And it works on so many different levels. And because it takes you to different levels, your mind is being active at the same time that it's being calmed. And it sounds like they work against each other, but in reality, your brain is incredibly complex. It can handle millions of processes a second. Most powerful computer ever created and probably ever will be created. So when you can integrate these different feelings or with each other at the same time, like within the span, I believe the recording is 40 or 45 minutes, then what happens is with time and experience, incredible things happen overall. So the effects kind of bleed over, using bleed with surgery is kind of funny, but they kind of bleed over into every other experience you have. And the beautiful thing that I want to reiterate about properly engineered entrainment is that even when it has a purpose, like the specific name of this recording obviously alludes to purposes, as long as it's properly engineered and used properly, then you're likely to get benefits well beyond what you expect. So it's important that when you use these recordings, use them often, use them regularly, use them properly, and pay attention. Be on the lookout for good things, because most of my clients don't notice a thing until they're at work and their boss compliments them on they've been making less mistakes. They're doing a really good job, and they weren't getting compliments like this. Friends or colleagues are saying, "You're much calmer now than you used to be. What's going on?" And they don't notice a thing. I had a friend who used this recording. He was driving home. When he ran the session, that's what I call it when you listen, when he ran the session, he didn't notice anything. At least that's what he told me. Mm-hmm. He said it felt like 40, 45 minutes. It was hearing a bunch of pulse tones. It really didn't do anything. But, I guess you can't win them all. And then he's driving home. He got home. He called me. He was cut off apparently a few times. And normally he'd give people, I think it's called the bird. And
the Florida
yeah,
State
there you go. That's right. And he'd be yelling, kind of like the peace sign with only half the piece. So he, normally he'd be reacting like that. He didn't even notice until he got home that he was cut off and had no reaction. These recordings are not designed to entertain you. They're designed to change how you literally function. There is a very large difference in what you need to have as far as expectations when you're listening to this, because this is nothing like what you've heard before, and it's definitely nothing like what you've experienced before. There's a lot of wonderful modalities out there. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not, poo-pooing other people's work. I think it's necessary that they're there. And a lot of them have wonderful, wonderful products and technologies. But this is so different that you just can't walk into it with the same kind of expectations that you have with others. So stability, serenity, and well-being is there to help train your mind to be more complex, to be able to handle complexity better, and to be able to handle your life and your experience better. And you get that just for being here. I think that's a pretty fair deal.
I think that's an incredible deal. So yeah, go over and type in the chat window if you're excited, right? I'm excited about this recording, and you're going to get that just for showing up today. Stability, serenity, and well-being. Awesome. Thank you, Maury.
My pleasure.
All right, so now let's do the gift at the end.
Okay, and that will be the connection.
All right, 3, 2, 1. So Maury, you also have a free gift that we're going to offer to everyone as long as they stay all the way to the end of the webinar. And we know your time is valuable. We want to reward you for that. So tell us a little bit about what you have for them if they stay all the way to the end today.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Actually, this is another unique recording. Don't sell it. I feel that I want to give back to people real value. So when I give things away, don't make the mistake of thinking they're worth what you're paying for them. They're worth far more than what you're paying for them. So this recording is called The Connection. And as the name suggests, it's all about connecting the various facets of your personality, of your conscious, your unconscious, and your subconscious mind. We are incredibly powerful beings, but when we're disjointed and fractured, we don't understand the power we truly have. We don't understand the inner wisdom that we have. It doesn't matter how smart a so-called expert is or how wonderful they are in giving advice or saying, I know what the perfect solution is for you to have the perfect life. They can only know what's perfect for their own life. And then they only know that if they did it and it actually gave them the perfect life. All any of us can do is give you the opportunity to be inspired, to discover what lies within you. It's like the yin and the yang. It's like looking at a glass that's half full or half empty. When you look at a glass of water and it is filled halfway up with water, is it half full or half empty to you? Well, the truth is, it's full all the time because of displacement. Where there's no water, there's atmosphere, there's air, there's carbon dioxide, there's oxygen. It's never half empty, it's never half full. You're always completely full. You always have everything that you need. The wisdom that you have, even if you're 15 years old, you have incredible amounts of wisdom. Think about it. You've been alive for 365 days times 15. That's a long time. You may not have as much wisdom as, say, someone who's 80 years old, but you have significant amounts of wisdom. If you know how to tap into that, you can have a better life right away. And that's what the connection does. The connection, in my research, has been found when you listen to it properly and regularly to condition your mind and your brain to be able to be in tune and literally connected, fully connected. Imagine the power of one computer, and then you have 3 other computers that you can hook up in series. It's well known that when you hook computers up in series, they're much more powerful. There's actually websites out there where people are asked to give over CPU time on their smartphones to help them find alien life I think SETI has something like that. There's others that are given over to help different organizations find cures for various diseases. So what happens is your smartphone, which by the way, they use now as satellite computer systems. That's basically the exact same technology with the same amount of power that's controlling the satellites up above. These things are being used to come up with cures. And it's because we're conglomerating all the different facets, every benefit we have, we're coalescing into one larger being, if you will. Your brain, your mind, your consciousness, your subconscious, your unconscious, all of these have abilities that are unique unto themselves. When you get them all talking together and working together, it's amazing what you come up with. I mean, Tammy, how many times have you been on some kind of a project, creative or business or otherwise, where you were alone and you were doing fine, but you were hitting so many walls and it was so difficult, and then you teamed up with some people, and all of a sudden they would say something that frankly you didn't think was very good, but it stimulated you and set you on a new track, which led you to a solution. It led you here. Conversely, you would say something to them that they would either agree or disagree with, but it would stimulate them. If you agree, you both build on it. If you disagree, the conversation builds and gets an ebb and a flow, literally a life of its own. That's what the connection is about. The connection is completely about getting all facets, all the tools that you have, all the weapons in your arsenal to work together to help you to help yourself. You know, we're so used to thinking it's the subconscious, it's the unconscious, it's the conscious. Well, you know what? We're not three people. All of these things together make who you are. So it's time to start considering that in your life. And instead of thinking of them as all separate entities, and you're something else still, you know, on top of that. So now there's four entities. There's me, there's my unconscious, there's my subconscious, you know, and my consciousness. Instead of all of that is what makes you, actually. It's all part of you. That's kind of like, you know, if you don't have that philosophy, it's kind of like saying my hand isn't part of me. It's just something I've rented while I'm here on this planet. My head isn't really my head. It's just something I've rented while I'm here. That's not true. We are on this planet. In this existence that we are in right now, every part of us is all of us. Everything is equally important. When we can work together, you see this hand is working with this hand. I can hold this pen. I can take this pen over here. They're communicating. They're working together. This looks silly, but it kind of idealizes the potential. I didn't think about lifting up this pen. I just did it. When you think about it, and that's all you do, nothing happens. So you need all the different parts to work together in order to truly accomplish things. And I believe that people who have a difficult time accomplishing things in their lives are actually experiencing a disconnect between various facets of themselves. Their conscious or unconscious or subconscious aren't connecting. They're not talking. What the connection does is, without you having to try, without you having to learn anything, without you having to study, it naturally creates a brainwave frequency that is common and activates all three centers of you. Once they get it, you've probably heard that phrase, we're in the same frequency, we're synchronized, we're thinking the same way. It's the same thing. You and I might be synchronized, but you know what? Think about when your unconscious, subconscious, and conscious mind are all synchronized and thinking together also. It increases your power, it increases your possibility. The sky isn't the limit, the stars aren't the limit, there really are no limits.
I love that idea of having them all work together, like, because there are a lot of times I think that people go into projects or have goals and they may be telling themselves, you know, that they can achieve this, but maybe that subconscious part of them doesn't really believe that, and that's why they're not seeing the results.
That's true. Look at sports teams. Mm-hmm. You know, NBA, NHL, NFL, wherever. Not even professional. You can go all the way down to minor leagues and to peewee leagues. Some people perform better than others. Why is that? You know, they may have similar physiques, similar conditioning, similar this. Why does one person perform better than another? I believe that's because they're more in the zone. And the zone, like, what's the zone? I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. The zone is when all facets of your consciousness and unconsciousness and subconsciousness are all working together with your body to be a smooth, efficient, effective machine, as it were. When that happens, you're in the zone. If you want to be in the zone, stick around till the end of this so that you can get this recording.
All right, awesome. So everybody who's going to stick around to the end, type in the chat box, I'm staying. We want to see. Keep going, keep going. Who else is staying? Okay, awesome, you guys. All right, let's move forward.
For those of you who stick around to the end of this webinar, I have an incredible gift for you. And you're just not going to believe that it's a gift. When the term gift has a lot of meanings to it, but one of the meanings is that it's something of value that someone's going to appreciate. The beautiful thing about this gift is it doesn't wear out. It doesn't go away. And it's going to give you a connected feeling like you've never had before. A connected feeling that's going to allow you to literally get yourself to the promised land.
So Maury, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to do the work that you do?
Oh boy, okay. I don't think we have enough time to get too into this, but I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest abridged version. For about 40 years of my life, since I can remember being conscious actually, I have been what I would term clinically depressed. Now I wasn't diagnosed as such by doctors. Back in those days, they didn't really go ahead and do that. They didn't give pills for these kinds of things either. So just to give you an idea of what my life was like, look at the darkest black that you can find around you. That would be pretty much a bright sunny day for me. I went through my life every morning waking up, crossing my fingers, hoping that when I looked out the window, I would see mushroom clouds. That's how bad my life was. I just wanted nuclear war. I wanted an end to everything. I couldn't feel anything that was good. I felt only things that were bad and painful. Everything that happened, something could happen to you, Tammy, that you would go, well, isn't that nice? And I would look at it and be so envious or jealous of it. I think it's the most horrible, cruelest joke in the world. You could look at a beautiful flower. We could both be out for a walk together. And you would look at this gorgeous rose with a beautiful bee pollinating away, hopping from flower to flower, thinking to yourself, wow, isn't that just a miracle of nature, a miracle of life? Look how beautiful it is, and it serves a purpose, and it promotes life and beauty and all this other stuff. And I would look at it and say, yeah, sure, rub it in my face that there's a reason for everything except me. That's how I felt, that I was here to suffer. I was here to be in pain. I got injured incessantly. I've broken my kneecap. I've dislocated almost every bone in my body. I've cracked ribs more times than I care to think of. My nose I've broken so many times, I actually have people asking me where I had it done. Because, I don't know, can you see it? But they like the shape now, but I've broken my nose a million times. These aren't real. Smashed out my teeth. Had vertigo on and off. I deal with vertigo all the time, actually, for decades now. I'm spinning as we speak. My eyes kind of do this. That's kind of what my brain processes. It's difficult to express multiple suicide attempts. Just not wanting to deal with life at all, realizing that, how do you have multiple suicide attempts? if you really want to die, one should be enough, right?
Mhm.
So all this blackness and all this depression and all this darkness, somehow I managed to have some friends. So how do you have friends when you're like that? How do you not, how do you want to die, but when you go to kill yourself, you do it a bunch of times and it doesn't work? Something stuck in my mind that maybe I don't really want to die. And if I can't find a way to die, I have to find a way to live.
Mhm.
So I started looking and I started hunting and I started reading, and this is before the internet. So I went to libraries and I looked at newspapers. They used to have something called microfiche. It was actually this little itty bitty film that you'd put in a machine and you'd scroll it and it would show up. If you don't know what it is, just look for any movie from 1976 or something. And I'm sure, some police drama, I'm sure you'll see it there. But that's the point. I did everything I could to try to come up with ways to help myself. So I'm learning about meditation, and I'm learning about tapping techniques, and I'm learning about this, and I'm learning about that, and I'm learning about breathing techniques, and everything I could find. Different Asian methodologies, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, karate, anything I could to try to get some stability in my life, to try to get some meaning in my life, because there was none. I was literally what people might term a failure at everything I did. Interestingly enough, people would say when I started something, oh, you're going to be so good at this. And then I'd be the worst in the history of any of these things. Now, you might notice that while I'm saying all of this, I'm smiling and I'm not reliving this pain. I could go on forever, but I'm not going to. I think I've gotten the point across, especially with the mushroom clouds. But the point is that it was using this technology that freed me from this way of thinking. It turns out that I was supposed to go through all of this because it was the only way for me to learn. And the biggest thing I learned was that everything that happens in life for a reason. And if you choose to label something as bad, you don't learn anything from it. You tend to shy away from it and back away and ignore it and try to move away. If you instead define something as a learning experience, an education, you look for a lesson. And when I started looking for lessons, things started changing, as opposed to thinking everything was bad and the world sucked and people sucked and I sucked and no one deserved to live. We were a mistake. I used to think that as a race we were a mistake. We were like a high school experiment by some alien race that went bad. They shot it off into space to get rid of it. It landed on Earth and just happened to turn into us. So
Wow.
that was
That
my
would have been a good movie.
yeah, that was my theory of evolution. Okay, we were a failed high school experiment. Isn't that a nice way to think of life in general? So, so basically, this is what happened. I started realizing that, I somehow had friends I alluded to before. We went camping sometimes, and when I went camping, I would be sitting around a flame, and you hear the wood crackling and the flame dancing up and down. And the coolest thing was, I noticed that time seemed to move weirdly. It wasn't so slow, because I'm sure those of you who've had depressive episodes or even thought bad things, time passes really slowly, agonizingly slowly. And when I was staring at this flame, it felt like 5 minutes, and yet hours had passed. And that gave me incredible amounts of relief, because I thought, wow, finally I found something. After trying everything under the sun, reading every book, every self-help book, all the stories, Celestine Prophecy, all the big names, I won't get into names, but all the big names of all the big people who are the best people in the world for self-improvement, and nothing helped me. But this flame at least gave me a pause. It gave me a break. And that's the interesting thing, because it was kind of like, isn't that interesting? What is it about me staring at this flame and hearing all this crackling that made me at least feel better for a short time?
Mm-hmm.
And I started realizing that it was the flickering, it was the sounds, it was the noises that were happening that were actually leading me to believe and to think differently than I thought before. And I thought, well, how could that have anything to do with it? Was it just a distraction? Something told me in my head, not just a distraction. Because I've been distracted before. We've all been distracted. No matter how bad things are going around us, we can get distracted away from them. It hit me that I need to investigate this more. As I'm investigating it, I came across something called brainwave entrainment. And I started studying the neural physics behind what happens to your brain when you hear things, what happens to your brain when you see things, what actually occurs. It came down to a fact that when you get into certain brainwave states, I'm really distilling it fast now because I realize I'm going on forever and ever here. I'm just so passionate about this. So when we actually think something, when we're exposed to something, it creates brainwave activity. Now, that's something most of us, if we bother to think about it, we realize and it makes sense. But what most of us don't realize, and what it struck me as more important, was when you go into these brainwave states, when your neurons, which are your brain cells, start firing away at different rates, so how many times they like flash a frequency per minute, flash a current per minute is a frequency. So if they turn on and off 10 times in a second, that is actually an alpha frequency. If they do it, say 7 times a second, that is a theta frequency. Well, the interesting thing about that is when they pulse at that frequency, they're not just pulsing at that frequency, they are creating a chemical soup, neurotransmitters, endorphins, and hormones, which when mixed together, make a delicious soup or make a crappy soup. And I was making crappy soup. So I started realizing that with all this research I was doing, you know, I need to evolve this. I need to use this more. When I was reading all the experts, I felt good. I felt empowered. I felt like this is really going to help me. But it didn't. No matter how positive they were, no matter how great their techniques were, I was in such a cycle that the negative reflexive thoughts I was having were creating chemistry that was creating these horrible thoughts. And then the thoughts would create more negative chemistry. So we have, here, let me try to do this. Negative thoughts circle around, creating negative chemistry, creating more negative thoughts, more negative chemistry, and the cycle continues forever and ever. Amen. I couldn't change my thinking. The chemistry was too powerful. I couldn't change my beliefs. The chemistry was too strong. It suddenly hit me. Okay, fine. I can't change my thoughts. What if I could change the frequencies of my brain instead? That would also change the chemistry. If I'm right, changing the chemistry even once is enough to change the next thought that comes. Maybe I could build on that. So I started looking for brainwave entrainment everywhere. Didn't help me. Even though it made perfect sense, it should have been my key to the kingdom, if you will, but it wasn't. It wasn't helping me. At that point, I had a choice to make. I'm either resigned to living my life depressed and sad and angry all the time, or I say, wait a minute, all my research isn't wrong. It makes way too much sense. I don't think they're doing it right. Or at least for me, they're not doing it right. And I started creating it myself. And that's when everything started turning around. I suddenly noticed for a few minutes after listening that I was happy and I wasn't hearing thousands and thousands of voices. That's something else I experienced. The din of thousands of voices. Every conscious minute from the time I was aware of consciousness, a small child, till past 40. Every waking minute was like being in a gigantic crowd of nonstop talking. Once I started listening, for a few minutes after, the voices were gone. I actually got scared because it was an unusual feeling. I got scared. But then I realized, hey, this is what I want. The more I listened, the longer the period was after I wouldn't listen, after I stopped the recording. Eventually, I don't hear those things at all. They're gone. When I hear a voice in my head, it's one voice, and it's my voice saying, do this, do that, think of this, think of that. It's my conscious, subconscious, and unconscious all working together with me. And that is what gave birth to my technology. That's what gave birth to me. I'm not a young puppy by average standards anymore, but I am experiencing life much like an 18-year-old does, because everything is new to me. Everything is exciting to me. Every day brings a new birth, if you will. And the lesson here is for everybody out there, I don't care what you feel, what you think is reality. The trick is, it is what you think. When you change how you think, and you can change that with something like the quantum mind method, it can help you to retrain your brain. Whatever you believe is reality, whatever you believe is truth, it's just your belief. If it's not serving you, you can replace that belief. Just like you replace software on your computer with something updated, you can replace software on your brain with something updated too.
Awesome. That is absolutely amazing. That's an amazing story, and it's incredible because it was born out of your natural circumstance and a need and a desire to change your world and your life. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So let's talk about a couple of people, maybe one or two people who have used the Mori method, the frequency or the methodology and the technology that you have created. What has it done for them? Let's share a little bit about what it can do for someone or someone that you've created with. Yeah.
You're asking me to pick two?
Well, let's start with two.
All right. You know, a lot of people ask me, what can they expect? And I guess that's kind of what you're asking, in a very creative way, I might add. But people want to know what they can expect. The thing is, everybody gets something different. So even if people listen to the same recordings, the same systems, and they listen the same way, I'm listening to this recording once a day, I'm listening to this one every other day, I'm listening to this one every day too, I'm using this recording to help me sleep, and you have two different people listening exactly the same way, they will get different results. Because everybody has different needs. And remember, I'm not the genius here. You're the genius. You're the one who's going to help yourself. It's your brain that's being conditioned, not mine. Well, mine is, because I'm listening too. But it's your brain that's being conditioned. So your brain, your mind, all your various forms of consciousness know what you need, even if you're not consciously aware of it yourself. So we'll get what we need. When I tell people what to expect, they tend to look for what to expect. And because of that, they have blinders on, and they may not actually see the benefits they're getting because they're looking, you know, for instance, if I tell you the color red is going to be an indication that you're getting benefits and you get pink polka dots, well, you're only looking for red. So you're not going to see the pink polka dots, which for you mean you're getting something. Now, that being said, people with blood pressure issues have reported to me that their blood pressure is normalizing. People who are depressed tell me that their depressions are lifting to various degrees. I've had a bunch of people tell me over the phone that they've lowered their medication with their doctor's approval. You never ever lower medication because you think you're doing better on your own. Always go through your doctor. Many medicines require a wean out period, and if you do things too fast, you can cause yourself all kinds of damage. So never do anything on your own, always check with your doctor. That being said, many people have reported to me that their dosages have been lowered. People notice things like sleeping better, more energy, doing things that they haven't done, that they've been putting off forever and ever. I have a couple of people who use certain recordings of mine on vacation, and they complained to me because their vacation was supposed to be lazing around in bed watching TV, and all they did was work on their house. You know, they did home repairs, they cleaned leaves out of their gutters, they did all kinds of stuff that they've been putting off, frankly, they wanted to do, but they kind of, you know, half laughing, half annoyed, said, you know, Maury, I listened to this and you really ruined my vacation because all I did was stuff I needed to do. Instead of resting, I wanted to rest. Relationships can get a lot better. You know, stress, for instance, stress and anxiety levels can be brought down. Keeping in mind, this is just a handful. There's a million other things that could happen too. And you have to understand that it's like exercise. So don't think you can do 3 sit-ups once a month and that's going to get rid of your belly fat. You have to do these things regularly. I'm a neuroscientist. I'm not a woo-woo guy. There are woo-woo people out there who know what they're doing with their woo-woo, and they're very good at it, and it helps a lot of people. I am not a good woo-woo guy, okay? I need evidence. I need to see physiological changes. I have different devices that can measure brainwave activity that I use on myself and on test subjects to make sure something is occurring, not just perceptual changes, not just I feel things. Earlier today, I ran a session from one of the recordings from this system, actually, and it's a dual brainwave recording, which is also very unique to my work. Other people just don't do it. When I say dual brainwave, a lot of people aren't aware that when information goes in their left ear, it actually sends information to their right hemisphere. Right ear, left hemisphere. This is how the information goes. So while I'm listening to these, I'm having a different frequency and training my right hemisphere to a different frequency than my left. And I can actually physiologically feel the differences in my hemispheres. Now that might be my imagination, but I notice it all the time. There was a time actually where I intended to listen to a different recording, but I listened to this one and I actually could tell I was listening to this one because I felt the difference in the way my brain was behaving. So it's really an interesting facet to see what you're capable of. You know, when we were born, we're a tabula rasa, which means we're a blank slate. When we were originally designed, however you believe we were designed, whether it was an accident, evolution, or by God, it doesn't really matter, because when we were originally designed, we had a brain. Even Cro-Magnon man had a brain and nose and eyes. Basically and functionally, we were the same. Yes, our brain has grown and evolved, our physiology has changed, all these things change. But in reality, our brains were designed to release chemistry in such a way that we would be healthy and be able to function normally. This is how we are designed. Keep in mind, back then, all we did was what? We went to the washroom, we had sex. We didn't know why we were having sex, but we did it. It was like an instinct. We slept, we woke up, we hunted, and we gathered. And that was our lives. Believe it or not, a lot more stress-free than our current situation. So our bodies, our minds don't get to experience what they have actually been blueprinted to do. We need these brain chemicals to be produced on a regular basis. When our brain frequencies are dominant in different frequencies like beta or alpha or theta or gamma or delta for a second or two at a time, which is about what we get very little spurts of these neurochemicals. Because remember, I said that when we go into specific states, our neurons release different chemicals depending on the frequencies and the areas of the brain that are stimulated. So we don't get enough of what we were designed and built to get. Is it a wonder that we're, in North America especially, we're the most medicated of all of the peoples of the world, that people everywhere have problems? Alcoholism runs rampant, abuse runs rampant, depression and other anxiety issues run rampant, memory issues run rampant. These are all products of our society and the way we choose to live. Imagine if you can use something like these recordings to actually allow yourself to get into a stable dominant frequency for 5, 10, 15, even 20 minutes. Now, you're not doing anything supernatural. You're getting yourself back to nature, back to what nature intended for your brain. Your brain is actually getting an opportunity to feed your body and itself chemistry that it was originally designed for, and it probably hasn't had ever in your entire life. But now you have the opportunity to do that. And that is maybe the best benefit that I can say this allows you. It takes you back to how you were designed to be operated. Imagine you're driving a car that's designed to run on diesel fuel, and you put kerosene in it instead, or you put regular gasoline, or you put rocket fuel. It's not going to run properly.
Right.
We aren't running properly. And this kind of technology can go a long way to help getting you back being able to live in this society with all the stresses and all the beauty. There's a lot of beauty here too, but also to allow us to be physiologically and psychologically more the way we were originally designed to be.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Maury, tell us a little bit about what brainwave entrainment is.
Okay, brainwave entrainment is actually the process of getting one system to follow another system in synchronicity. So what we're doing is your brain has all these different frequencies. Your neurons pulse at all kinds of different frequencies all the time. Believe it or not, your brain right now has neurons pulsing in the beta frequency, which is generally, suggested as awake and alert. Theta, which has been related to learning and meditation. Alpha, meditation. Some people say learning. I would disagree on that, but that's another conversation. Delta, which is sleep, which is associated with sleep. So believe it or not, there's parts of your brain right now pumping away at a delta frequency, and a gamma frequency also, which is very fast, even above that of beta. So what brainwave entrainment does is it helps to modulate them and to get them to follow the frequency. How does it do this? There's a natural process in the mind and in the brain called the frequency following response. If you've ever listened to music that you like and you find yourself doing this, right? Yeah, and you're tapping your foot to the tune, you are actually being entrained by the beat of the music. That's why you're subconsciously doing this, because you're following the beat of the music. You are following the frequency. You're following it. You're responding to it. So the frequency following response, here's an on and an off, an on and an off. And it's all vibrations. So it's on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. If you get a stable exposure, if you will, to these frequencies, to this pulsed audio, these pulsed vibrations, what happens is the neurons in your brain will process that through another facet. So you have the frequency following response. It actually starts following and mimicking, like monkey see, monkey do. It starts following it. And what results is something called the cortical evoked response. Cortical layer is the uppermost layer of the brain. It starts following the frequency. So if I do this, eventually this starts happening. Clocks, pendulum clocks, if you put them all in a room and you start them all separate, you come back an hour or two later, they'll all be going together. You put a bunch of, say, 20-year-old women in a dormitory, other things start to synchronize too. Okay, this is nature. Frequency following response, cortical evoked response, entrainment is naturally occurring in nature all the time. So by exposing you to these pulsed vibrations, your brain starts following and you get a dominant frequency. It's called a dominant frequency. So you still get the other frequencies, but many of your neurons, a bunch of them, are all pulsing at the same rate. That results in the creation of neurotransmitters, endorphins, and hormones that allow you to feel a different way, to act a different way, to perceive everything differently. You decide what to think, and then your brain produces chemistry that allows you to feel that way. Even if you don't realize you're deciding what to think, there's thousands of decisions that may occur subconsciously that you're not even aware of, but you have made that decision to think this way. If this conversation is interesting to you, you've actually decided it's interesting, and your brain is creating neural chemistry that's making you sit like this on your chair going, what's he going to say next? What's he going to say next? If you decide I'm boring, well, you've already hung up. So there's no point in talking about it. But what happens is your brain creates chemistry that says, this is boring the crap out of me. And you start feeling bored. You get fidgety, right? That all happens because of chemistry. Everything is chemistry. When you understand that, brainwave entrainment works based on stimulating physiological responses that create chemistry. It's the chemistry that allows you to feel the way you feel. If you're married or you're in a relationship or you have a child or a pet, and when you see them, you feel this warm, fuzzy feeling, it's because you've decided to feel that warm, fuzzy feeling. You see someone else's dog that you may think is ugly, You don't feel that same feeling for that dog because you've made a decision. It's not my doggy, right? So I don't feel that way. It's not my kid. I don't feel that way. It's not my mom, my dad, my wife, my husband, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever. When you make that decision, and oftentimes it's thousands of decisions in the span of a second. Remember, your brain can do millions of functions in a second. So doing thousands of decisions in a second is like not even making it break a sweat. When that happens, that's entrainment. Entrainment allows us to control the chemistry, actually to influence the chemistry in our minds without doing anything untoward. We don't have to take chemicals. We don't take pills. We don't take injections. We don't have to get electric stimulation. It's simply a natural process that we're taking advantage of with pulse sounds. And that's it. So that's what entrainment is. It changes how we think. It changes how we perceive the world. And it all happens naturally through what we call sound.
Right. Fantastic. I think this whole topic and learning about the brain and how it works is totally fascinating. So I'm hoping everybody else is enjoying this as much as we are. So everybody, if you're enjoying this conversation and you think this is fascinating and you're excited about learning about your brain, just type yes over in the chat so we can see that you're still there and you're still enjoying this topic and this conversation that we're having today.
Yeah, and look, understand, when we're talking about your brain, you know, some people may think this is a little dry, but you know, when you understand something, it takes fear away and it gives you power. And one of my fervent hopes here is that you understand that your brain, you have power. And I'm hoping by explaining dynamics behind this power for you, that you realize, hey, yeah, I have this power too. You know, if I feel lousy, I'm making myself feel lousy. One of my most famous questions and answers at the end of a conversation when I'm speaking with a client is simple. How do you feel now compared to how you felt when we started talking? Normally conversations, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour maybe. And invariably, I know what the answer is anyway, because I can hear the tone of the voice changing throughout the conversation. So they'll say, well, you know, I feel a little bit better, I feel a lot better, or somewhere in between. And then I'll ask them a very simple question. Tell me, what's changed in your life since you picked up the phone and talked to me? Nothing has changed in their life, except for how they're choosing to perceive it. That's why they feel better. And then I'll say, look, for the rest of your life, when you start feeling agitated or angry or upset or annoyed, remember this conversation. Remember that nothing changed in your life and you actually feel better now. These are people that are often in dire emotional circumstances, physical pain too. And they invariably feel better than they felt before. They may not feel fantastic. They may not want to go for a jog, but they feel better than they felt before. That's the evidence so that they can understand that much of what they're feeling, whether they have a true physiological or psychological reason to feel it, I'm not taking that away from them, but I'm letting them know that a lot of what they're experiencing is being magnified by how they're being, by the choices they're making and how they're interpreting what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. And when you speak with someone else who points things out that you don't normally think about, it kind of shifts the way you're thinking. And when that shift happens, you notice a difference, as long as it's pointed out to you, because most of us don't notice it until it's pointed out. So that doesn't mean everybody has to call me up and I'll change your perspective, because all talking to me did for these people was shift, yes, you're saying it now, aren't you? Their brainwave frequencies. And what do these recordings do? They shift your brainwave frequencies. That's all you need.
Fabulous. So Maury, why are some reasons that people should be using brainwave entrainment?
That's a really good question. Why should we do anything? Why should we eat? Why should we bathe? Why should we brush our teeth? If we don't do these things, our systems fall apart. And because of the society that we live in and the nature of the society that we live in, stress is prevalent. Anxiety is prevalent. There are so many things going on around us in our world. It's bad enough that news programs exist. that newspapers exist and news magazines exist, and that most of us read them incessantly. There's a lot of entertainment happening in the reality show that we call politics, or that we call society in general. And we're all stuck to this stuff like glue. Just go to YouTube. You know, forget about television. Go to YouTube and see what gets the most views. It's all these things that cause us stress. we think we're watching them, you know, because we're laughing. But we're not laughing. It's serious. Late night talk shows, as a good example, laugh at all kinds of things that are actually horribly serious. And I'm not sure it's legitimate to laugh at these things, because it gives people the wrong idea. And when we're laughing at them, we're not processing them properly. And when we don't process them properly, the stresses and the fears that they generate aren't being dealt with. And they build up in us, and they well up in us, and they make our lives miserable. And we just keep watching the shows, and we keep watching the comedy, and we keep watching and reading the news, and CNN, and, you know, all the comedy shows and all the serious shows. And we do all of this because car accidents and blood and gore sell newspapers, as they say. And this is what they're doing. They're giving us all these things to freak us out, to entertain us. But in reality, they're really just tearing us apart. And they're creating divides among people of different belief systems and different ways of thinking. We're all different. We're all unique. We're all like fingerprints. We represent a greater being of humanity. All of us. And if we don't watch it, we're going to kind of act like cancer cells. You know, in the body, in the human body, it's interesting, because with the human body, we actually have billions of cells. I mean, our brain alone has billions of cells. So you have incredible amounts of cells, and each cell serves a purpose. I remember when I was a kid going to the science center, and they showed a young woman reading a poetry book in a field, and the camera panned back. Eventually you saw, you know how you see the world from an airplane? Everything looks like puzzle pieces, right? And then you go farther back, and then you see the planet. Now you're seeing continents and islands and these things. And then back even further, now you're just seeing a speck of light. Back even further, now you're seeing the Milky Way galaxy. And it just kept going back and back and back to kind of give us perspective, which we don't have anymore. And then the camera went way in really fast. And it went back to the young lady who was reading her poetry book. And this time it went into her hand. And it stopped at a single cell. And you know what? You couldn't see the next cell next to it, because that's how small we had just gotten now, that we were so small you couldn't see an accompanying cell. My hand feels solid to me, but it really isn't. It's a myriad of unknown billions of cells, all of which have a unique purpose, all of which need to function properly for my body, for my mind to function properly. So let's take that now to what's going on in the world. If I can get so small that a single cell looks like it's standing by itself, well, I'm looking at myself and I'm perceiving myself as standing by myself. You're looking at yourself and you're perceiving yourself as standing by yourself. But you know what? What if we are nothing more than cells that don't have the perspective to realize we're part of a greater organism? Because we perceive separation between us, when there really, in reality, is no separation between us. What cancer does is it takes over cells and it converts them to cancerous cells that destroy. What do people do when they attack other people? They destroy other people. They destroy their lives. They destroy the cell next to them. They turn it, you know, to take a Star Wars analogy, they turn it to the dark side, right? That's what's happening. What if this is really what's going on? What if we're just a microcosm and we think of ourselves as individual beings, but in reality, we're just part of a greater being? And if we're part of a greater being, we need to start learning how to understand what's going on around us so that we can start treating ourselves better. You know, as a scientist, this is going to sound really stupid, I guess, but I believe that the day, assuming it ever comes, when we stop being envious of each other and we stop being jealous of each other and everybody's happy, because when everybody's, let's face it, no one does anything bad if they're happy, right? So when we're all happy, I think disease is just going to disappear, because I think disease is nature's way of telling us what we're doing wrong to the greater being of humanity, of all of us. Again, we don't see ourselves as being part of one being, but I think disease is nature's way of telling us, look, you guys are just a smaller microcosm of what is there. I remember seeing an old movie called Animal House. Donald Sutherland, was there smoking up and partying with some students, and he had some dirt under his nail, and he cleaned it away while he was talking, and he said, wouldn't that be weird if I just destroyed an entire civilization? Our perception makes us believe things that aren't necessarily true. Read a little bit about quantum mechanics and quantum theory. You can find English, like plain English explanations that will let you see the world very differently than how you see it now and how you perceive it now. Now, all of that being said, let's look at things like statistics. Let's look at what's going on in the world around us. Depression, for example, according to the World Health Organization, is a common mental disorder. Globally, they estimate more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression. Now think about that. That's almost the population of the United States. And think about this also. They are talking about clinical depression. So people who would be diagnosed, if they had the opportunity to be diagnosed, as depressed. That is frightening, because you can take that number and you can multiply it by 10 for people who are experiencing various degrees of depression and are debilitated at some point in their lives or even during their day with depression. It's terrible. It's the leading cause of disability worldwide. Remember what I said before about how the brain influences pain and suffering? Well, think about it. Depression invites disease, dis-ease, right? It invites it into our lives. It's terrible. It's a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. The WHO says that. This isn't just me now talking, some guy preaching from a soapbox, okay? For some strange reason, more women are affected by depression than men. Is there a physiological reason for that? Is there a sociological reason for that? Women have still, despite, our claims that women have equal rights and women are this and women are that, we still don't treat women well, in my opinion. Now, I'm just talking personally, but in my opinion, to be very honest with you, and I'm not just saying this because you're a woman, but in my life, if it wasn't for women, I don't think I'd be here now. And I don't mean that because my mother gave birth to me, okay? I mean the influences. Mm-hmm. Imagine where we'd be as a society today if we didn't have racism. And racism is men and women, black and white, all kinds of racism. Imagine if everybody was allowed to have an education from the dawn of education. If everyone was allowed to have everything and treated the same. Imagine how much farther advanced we'd be now. If we watch Star Trek now and we think that's futuristic, I bet you that's primitive compared to where we would be if women and other peoples who have been repressed and downtrodden on were never treated like that. We're all treated as they should be, as equals. Because we all have, remember, we're the greater body of mankind. We all have a unique purpose. If we're here for an important purpose. The person who is on the street panhandling, the person who's living in a refrigerator box to keep away from the cold or on top of a subway grating, believe it or not, they are just as important as you or I or anybody else. And the evidence of that is because they're here. They're here now. Work, career, all this stuff is nice, but it's really just there to waste our time or take up time, keep us busy. It serves no biological imperative. It doesn't keep the human race alive and healthy. If anything, as you can see, it hurts us, okay? Depression at its worst leads to suicide. There's effective psychological and pharmacological, maybe there's a pharmacological treatment to help me not twist and tie over that word, but that can help depression. But why do we need that? Why do we need to come up with, slash and burn techniques to solve issues that we created ourselves in the first place? Why can't we just create something? And we have, like what I do, like what other people do, to help people to recover from these things. Mental illness. Okay, let's get away from depression as a specific and go more into the neutral category of mental illness in general, which has had quite a problem, tied to it. People were afraid to get help because the whole stigma of being called mentally ill is a horrible thing to live with, the way people treat you, the way they're afraid of you, the way they deal with you or don't deal with you, as is usually the case. Mental illness directly affects everybody, either through themselves, family members, friends, coworkers. Everybody is influenced adversely because of mental illness. There's no one who gets away scot-free. In any given year, statistics say that at a minimum, 1 in 5 people will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. That is an incredible amount of people. Think about it. How many billion people are on this planet right now? That's a lot of us in need of help. And most of the world ignores mental illness. I mean, some countries are trying to do better, but we're still way behind. I mean, look how long we've been trying to give women equal rights, and we're still not there. I'll tell you something. In Canada, I know for a fact that if it wasn't for women entrepreneurs, we would have felt the last big recession a lot worse than we did now. I saw government papers that actually stated that women entrepreneurs single-handedly kept our economy strong. That's incredible for a segment of the population that we don't think is equal. We, men, we're idiots. Men. I'll speak for men right here, okay? I'm sorry, but it just bothers me when you see evidence right in front of your face and you don't believe it, even when you see it in front of your face, because people are afraid of losing what they perceive they have. They don't realize that if I help you to be stronger, that will make me stronger. The perception, though, is that if I help you to be stronger, you're taking away my strength. Using tools like brainwave entrainment, when it's properly engineered, allows you to see beyond the stupid lessons that we're taught that make us believe things that don't make any sense at all. 8% of adults will experience major depression at some time in their lives. That's scary, because major depression brings suicidal thoughts way up to the forefront, more than just the classic, single second thought that most of us have had in our lives. Thoughts like I've had, where it's months and years at a time, where you're hoping for something like that to happen. By the age of 40, 50% of the population will have had or are experiencing currently a mental illness. Things like schizophrenia, anxiety disorders affect 5% of the household population, causing mild to severe impairment. Imagine if you didn't have that impairment. Imagine the ability you'd have to be able to deal with things around you. If you had tools that you could use, again, like entrainment, and I say entrainment not just because I'm an expert in the field, but because it's so easy to apply. And it doesn't have any contraindications. Anyone can do it. And it's, a friend of mine once called it a self-refilling prescription, because it's not like a pill where you take a pill and you feel better, and then when the bottle's empty, you have to go to the hospital or to the doctor to get a new prescription. Then you got to go to the pharmacy and you got to pay money or insurance, however, to get it. Once you get it once, it doesn't wear out. It doesn't lose its effectiveness. It just keeps working as long as you use it. Same thing with a pill. If a pill helps you and you're not taking it, it's not going to help you. This can help you. You need to use it, just like anything else. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death in men and women from adolescence to middle age. Think about it. People who are just growing into their, I hate to put it this way, but usefulness for society. Okay? They're not taking, they're giving now. That's when you're at the largest rate of giving back to the world, to society. And that is the largest group of people who don't want to be here. We're not doing something right if the people who should have the most power and feel the most empowered are the people who are feeling the worst. There's just something that isn't right here. Let's talk about marriages a little bit. 30% of marriages, on average, end in divorce. Think about that. They get so bad that they end in divorce. Now, how long did they last before divorce became the final option? How many other marriages are getting ready to become that 30% next year? but they're suffering now. Could be 50, could be 60, could be 70%. It could be higher than that. Depends on where you are. Depends on what stresses you have in your life. Again, if you get to the root of the problem, if you can deal with the stress, if you can deal with the anxiety, all these other problems become less prominent and less prevalent and easier to cope and deal with. According to the American Psychological Association in 2017, here's some of the most common sources of stress. 63% of Americans, okay, now this is going to vary per country and of course per study too, but on average here, 63% of people felt incredible amounts of stress. So they took tests and this was significant. The future of the nation. What's going to come of the United States of America? In this case, as an example, because I'm using statistics from the US. The next 62%, right behind it, money. Okay, that leads us to our society and our social structure. What is wrong with what's going on? You know, when you look at statistics like this isn't just something that you see roll by, you know, on an information roll on CNN or on CNBC or something. This is what tells us what's wrong. We can do things with this information to change things. But when do you ever see that happening? It happens in the underground. It happens with people like you who are watching events like this. Because you're the undercurrent that will change things. You're the pioneers. You're the first arrivals on this new land. And it's up to you to share this kind of knowledge with people. And not to share it to scare them like the media does, but to share it as an educational process. When you look at something, and I said this before, when you look at something as negative or bad, you don't learn anything. But when you look at it as an education, you learn. And when you learn, you can stop it from happening. It is my firm belief in my own experience that things kept getting worse and worse and worse because I kept looking at everything as bad. When I started using my recordings, and I was using them regularly and often, and the neurochemistry started changing, I stopped thinking of things as bad and instead of as an education. When I looked at it as an education, I would actually start seeing, lesson to be learned here, lesson to be learned here. And you know the neatest thing that happened, Tammy, to me? I actually started noticing relief. These things that were pummeling me for decades were going away. Why were they going away? From the simple shift in perception, away from defining something as bad to something as an education. Turns out that all these bad things actually love me, and they wanted me to heal, and they wanted me to be happy, and I was too stupid to recognize it as a message, as a lesson, as a hint, as knowledge. And because I was too stupid to pay attention to that, it kept getting stronger and stronger and hurting me worse and worse, trying to get my attention. So if your life is bad, it's not bad, it's teaching you something. Start learning. When you start learning, you'll stop getting these lessons over and over again. That's what happens. When you graduate, you move on to the next experience. When you don't graduate, you get pummeled over and over and over again with the same lessons until you do learn. This is what the human experience is. It's all about learning. Okay, so let's move on. Next, 61% work. Again, showing that work itself is not so much necessary as it is necessary to disempower you. There's a structure to everything in society. There's someone at the top. Everything's a pyramid scheme. Okay, there's someone at the top, and then there's people close to the top. They feel more power than these people, but less than this person, and so on and so forth. And then most of us are way down here. Sorry, way down here, where you feel totally disempowered. These are the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, if they're lucky enough to be living paycheck to paycheck, or if they're lucky enough to have a social safety net underneath them that is helping them at least get the basics of life. A roof over their head, heat in the winter, some clean air in the summer. These things are hints. They're lessons for us to learn. Work can be satisfying. You know, I was let go from most jobs I've ever had, and I've had a lot. And I was miserable at all of them. And at all of them, I'd always be looking over my shoulder for the next axe to fall. and chop me away again. I have as a career now, I am a brainwave entrainment engineer. I'm the only brainwave entrainment engineer. I coined the phrase. That's how I know that I'm the only one. It's turned my life around. Totally turned my life around. I'm happy. Went from a guy who wants to be dead, who wants to see nuclear weapons launching and flying across the sky because they're my hero. You know, Superman flying across the sky to rescue you. But my Superman has a nuclear warhead. That was pretty sad, okay? Now, I want to show people that, hey, learn from my stupidity, my idiocy, my wrong way of looking at things. It's all there to teach a lesson. I'm learning that lesson. I feel so much better. Through part of my lesson is that I'm supposed to be yakking and yakking and yakking, just like I am now, to hopefully let you all know that you don't need to go through the stupidity, the hell that I went through, because it's all misinterpreted. Boy, if I had realized that these were lessons when I was 20, what would my life be like now? Well, I could also get depressed thinking, boy, I wish I thought of this, 25 years earlier. But the truth is, it happens when it happens. You're watching this now. You're not watching this 20 years ago, you're watching it now. Because now is the right time for you to be watching this. Now is the right time for you to be learning this. Political climate, again, man-made stressor. Violence and crime. We don't do anything bad unless we're unhappy. We work to be happy. We show people respect. You don't get violence and crime. It just doesn't happen. There are plenty of societies out there that we would look at and go, oh my God, these poor people, they live in huts, they don't have electricity. And they look at us and they go, oh wow, look at these people drugging themselves because they hate life. Who has it worse? A bit of an education here. Job pressure, loss of job, fear of loss of job, health crises, relationships, nutrition, media overloads. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to have something called the idiot box. You're probably too young for that already, Tammy. The idiot box was the television, right? And mom and dad used to babysit us by shoving us in front of the TV when they had enough of us, right? And we'd watch like Casper the Friendly Ghost or all these different, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And we'd watch all this stuff and that would babysit us. But it was called the idiot box. But you know what? When I was that age, the idiot box was in a room and you had to be in that room to be exposed to it. Now, here's the idiot box. Interestingly enough, what do we call this idiot box? A smart device. What can I tell you? This is my point. This is the lesson to be learned. When we think, we have a brain. We're meant to think. Anything you hear, stop assuming it's what you're told it is. Start looking at it as something to learn from, a lesson to be learned from, and your life will turn around like crazy. Now, I told you before that I had a hard time because the way I felt, changing what I was looking at and changing the way I was looking. But because of the miracle, and yeah, I'll call it a miracle of brainwave entrainment, you can actually change your thoughts. You can change the way you think without trying, just by subtly altering your brain chemistry. And that happens automatically through the frequency following response and the cortical evoked response, which are nice, big, technical, scientific terms for nature's way of helping you to be you. And remember, you're happy because you're happy. You're sad because you're sad. Sad, happiness, they're nothing more than little lights on the dashboard of your life. And if you pay attention to them, they don't even have to come on to warn you that there's a problem.
All right, awesome. Cool beans. All right, so we're going to move on to talking a little bit more about, Maury's technique and the secret sauce, but we want to make sure that you guys are still there and you're engaged and energized and you're really ready to make a change in your current state in your life. So go ahead and type yes in the chat box if you're ready to keep moving forward. All right, I see some people typing in there, so we'll go on. So Maury, is there a secret to using brain entrainment? Let's go through that. Is there one thing that people can do or something that they don't know about? What is the secret sauce?
Okay, the word secret is an interesting word. I don't really agree with it. It kind of makes it sound like I have some information that I've been endowed with that the rest of you don't have. And again, I want to point out that if there is a secret, the secret lies within you. And everybody's secret, by virtue of the uniqueness of everyone, is going to be their own. The thing about the entrainment, and okay, you want to talk a secret, fine. If you haven't heard of entrainment before, then it was a secret before you tuned in.
Right.
That's the secret. Using it properly will allow you to get the most benefits from the entrainment, from your mind. I alluded earlier that when you exercise, doing 3 sit-ups once a month isn't going to help you get rid of belly fat or get you into good shape. But doing it regularly and consistently is the trick. It's the same thing with your brain. Again, your brain is a muscle. So the best way, and here's how you listen to brainwave entrainment, it's actually very, very easy. You lie down or sit with head support. You put on a pair of stereo headphones. Very important that you don't use earbuds. Okay, I'll get back to that in a second. But stereo headphones, they have to be with a right and a left, except I just was dyslexic there. This is the left and this is the right. Mm. And you have it at a average conversational volume, and you close your eyes. That's the secret sauce to using brainwave entrainment properly. You lie down, you close your eyes, comfortable volume, stereo headphones. That's it. It's that hard.
So the secret is it's really, really easy.
Yeah, exactly. Take a nap. Take a nap. It doesn't even matter if you stay conscious, if you're awake. You can fall asleep during it, and it doesn't change the potential effects that you can get at all. Everything happens automatically through physiological responses. The psychological changes occur as a result of the chemistry. They occur after the fact. You put all the ingredients into the soup, you stir it, and then you have to leave it to simmer for a while. It's the same thing with your brain. It's the same thing with brainwave entrainment. Your brain knows what it needs. You, on some level, know what you need. Much in the same way that a glass is never half empty or half full, your brain isn't half empty either. That space that you're perceiving as empty is actually a space that holds potential and possibility. And it's that space that you learn to access automatically without a lesson, without having to take an exam, without having to memorize anything, that allows you to access this knowledge, this information, this creativity, if you will, that allows you to figure it out for yourself. Ultimately, you can't be dependent on someone else to make you feel good. If you are, then you're setting yourself up for failure. If you are responsible for your own happiness, your own joy, your own success, then you are in control and you have something that's sustainable. So that is the trick. I wish I could lead you through something that sounds very exciting and magical and miraculous, but the truth is the miracle and the magic is locked within you. And the entrainment allows you to create a key to unlock it and to access it. And as I said before, everybody's going to open a door that's their door. And inside that room, if you will be different information, different toys, different thoughts, different concepts that you will then build in a creative way to help yourself. And in short, and in a long way of thinking, to help others around you as well. One of the most satisfying things I find about what I do is sharing my insights with people. Even if those insights don't really apply to them, maybe it inspires someone else to think of something that does, relate to them, that is appropriate for them. And that's really what it's about. So I'd love to be able to teach you something to do. There are a few little things that I can suggest to help that might be helpful. People talk about gratitude journals all the time. Now, I have a kind of a spin on a gratitude journal that can be quite helpful. When you wake up in the morning, because you have to start somewhere, have a notebook. Do I have a notebook around me? I do. Okay, so you have a notebook. You can see stuff written here. So when you wake up in the morning, let's start now. It's the middle of the day, you're watching this, and you decide, what a great idea, I'm going to do this. So for the rest of the day, I want you to pay attention for 10 things that you can be grateful for around you, but you can't write them down. Okay? You have to remember them. So all day long, you're going to be looking, and it might take a few days, even a few weeks before you get into the habit, but you're going to be looking for things to be grateful for. When you come to the time to go to sleep, have that pad of paper by your bed and write down 3 times each those 10 things that you're grateful for. Now, the reason we don't write them down during the day is you may find 10 things you're grateful for by 10 a.m. in the morning, and then you're not looking for things to be grateful for anymore. Odds are you'll be thinking, well, I may forget, like I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm taking care of the kids, I'm taking care of my job, whatever I'm doing. It's going to distract me from what happened at 10 in the morning. So I'm going to be consciously looking for things to be grateful for all day. That's a great experience. At night when you go to bed, write each thing down 3 times. When we put a pencil or pen to paper, don't write it with your finger on a tablet or on your phone. Don't type it in. You have to write it on paper. You actually create a neural pathway. And that neural pathway is encoded with all those positive statements. The last thing you do before you lie down to go to bed, so you've brushed your teeth, you've done everything you need to do, you're sitting on your bed at the night table, you're writing down 3 times each, these 10 things, you go to bed. That's a fantastic state of mind to go to sleep with. In the morning when you wake up, you start your day exactly the same way. You write down 3 times those 10 things from the night before. The next day, again and again and again. Now, you can write down the same thing if it happened that day, if you observed it that day. Maybe you saw, someone, a dad playing with his small son in a park. Maybe you saw a doggy running by and he just looked at you, and you just got this warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Maybe you saw a beautiful plant. Maybe you walked by and you had the most beautiful aroma of someone barbecuing. It doesn't matter. It can be the silliest thing in the world. Anything at all that you're grateful for because it made you feel good at the time. That's all you do. And you just keep doing that. What it does is it programs you to start looking for good things instead of bad things. And it ends your day encoding physiologically into your neurons, your neuronal pathways, new memory pathways that are associated with these positive things. Last thing you're thinking of before you lie down to go to sleep are these things. First thing you think of before you start your day are those things. And you're encoding it in your brain. It's not just you're thinking about it, because thinking it and saying it out loud with a smile on your face in front of a mirror isn't enough. You have to write it down. Okay, so you write it down. And this reprograms you. You do this, it will help to augment the effects of the entrainment to allow you to build yourself. Kind of, the entrainment can be seen as tilling the soil, fertilizing the soil, aerating the soil. This technique can be looked at as some of the seeds. Now that the soil is all perfect for growth, you're planting some positive seeds. Next thing that teaching you, how do you teach this? Be aware of your surroundings and of the people around you. I was walking today in a mall with my wife, and we saw this cute little old lady. And we were on the 2nd floor, and they had they have in the middle a usual cutout area in a lot of malls, and you can see the 1st floor, and it's a rail. Now, she was moving like so slowly, holding on to the rail. And my heart just went out to her. And I looked at my wife and she said, go ask her. She knew right away what I wanted to do, right? And I asked her if she wanted some help, if she needed any assistance, anything like that. And she said, oh, I'm fine, I'm slow, but I'll manage, thank you. And I walked away just loving this lady. Never met her before, don't know her name, probably never see her again. But you know what? I just felt so fantastic inside because I offered my assistance. I opened myself up to the option of helping someone else. I hold doors open for 12-year-olds if I'm walking ahead of them and they're behind me. I don't care if they say thank you or not, because I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. I help people carry groceries if I see they're struggling, and I ask them, would you like me to carry your groceries? I helped a woman the other day get one of my systems onto her computer and onto her phone because she wasn't able to do so. And I had to use an app that allows me to control her computer. And when she told her friends about this beforehand, they were all saying, be careful, he's going to put a virus on your computer, he's going to steal your information, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. I spent an hour and a half setting things up nice and easy for her. I mean, I made nothing on the deal. Nothing. I lost money on the deal. But you know what? I love it. I felt wonderful. You want to feel better about yourself. You want to feel more in control. You want to feel more useful, more relevant. Help people. Offer to help people around you. How hard is that? Just be aware. Pay attention to the people around you. If you see someone who needs help, help them. If you see someone who's in the middle of a road rage incident, do your best. Instead of just sitting there, oh, I'm going to look off to the side here and pretend it doesn't exist. Try to, you don't necessarily have to get out of your car and put yourself in the line of fire, but, and don't yell at anyone, but go, hey, come on, let's all just, go on with our day. A little comment like that can totally throw someone back on track. It's amazing how being nice is therapeutic to you, even though you're being nice to someone else. So just those 2 exercises, along with using the entrainment properly, can change your life into something you don't even recognize. It's amazing. Try it. You'll like it. That used to be an ad in something. I can't remember. But seriously, it makes a massive difference in the way we perceive our lives and how we live our lives. And there's nothing better than being useful and feeling like you made a difference to someone. With my depression, I was so depressed. I used to read comics all the time, while I was, of course, smoking tons of pot and drinking tons of alcohol and doing all kinds of other drugs and being a sex addict and all these other things. You see, there's so many things that comes to my mind later in the conversation. You asked me all of this way back a long time ago. Yeah, but it just comes flooding to the surface when I'm inspired by something else. So all I'm saying is that I wanted always to be a superhero, because when you feel totally no power, why do you think comic books are so popular? Superhero comic books and movies. They're always breaking box office records because people are fantasizing that they have superpowers because they feel like they have no power. Again, a lesson to be learned. Not just blind, stupid, idiotic, waste of time entertainment. Learn from everything that you're attracted to, everything that gives you a message, everything that you're drawn to has a message for you. Nothing is just blind entertainment. Nothing is just an experience because you happen to be somewhere. It's all there to teach you something, even watching television, even what you choose to watch. All of it has the message. So there you go. That would be, if I was asked to give training, that would be the training I would give.
All right, awesome. So let's just recap for everyone here. So we talked about what brain entrainment is, who it can help, how it can help, all the statistics about the different things that are issues that we have around the world that it can combat. And we talked about the secret, which is basically just you and using this technology on a regular basis. And then you gave us some amazing tips like the gratitude journal and the awareness and being nice to others.
Well, simple.
Huge tools. So yeah, very simple. I mean, I don't know if you guys are feeling this, but for me, I mean, this is like one of the simplest things ever that you can do to make significant changes and improvements in your life. So, wow.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's unfortunate that our society is so protectionist that we feel we need to market ourselves as exclusive. I have hidden knowledge that you don't have. Okay, and if you want it, you better treat me right or I'm not going to give it to you. It's like we need to feel special. It's all about ego. My ego has to be served. It's not enough that I might have something that can help people. I need to have my ego stroked. Otherwise, I'm not going to share it. It's sad that we're in that kind of a world, but there's a lot of people who aren't like that. And I think there's more people who get joy out of sharing if they would just do it. And just helping, a homeless person on the street, don't look away. Even if you don't want to give them any money, say, hi, how are you? Have a nice day. Something to acknowledge that you're part of a system, you're part of a society. You're, it just, you don't know how good you can feel until you try these things. And it's in a lot of people's interest to make you think that you need them. No one needs me. They don't. They need themselves. My products aren't designed to make people think I'm a genius. They're designed to allow you to realize you're a genius. That's all. That's all you need. I just want people to know that they all have their power. They've always had their power. And it's a perception thing if they think they don't. And it's simple to change that perception. Just change your chemistry, change your neurons, change who you are.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Tammy. So basically what we're talking about is a new type of product, a new type of technique that's designed to help you to help yourself. And it's called the Quantum Mind Method. What that is essentially is it's a series of recordings that have been painstakingly sculpted in such a way that when listened to in a proper format, if you will, allows your brain, your mind, your conscious, your subconscious, all aspects of you to work in unison. This is probably a situation very few of you have experienced for any kind of long period of time. This happens to most of us where we're in the zone. But what we're doing with the Quantum Mind Method is we're putting you in the zone on a regular basis. We're training your mind how to do it regularly. Much like how when you first started riding a bike, it was difficult to keep your balance. You had to have someone holding it, or you had to have training wheels. Well, after doing it for a while, you were able to do it without thinking. You can ride a bike, you can do turns, you can do jumps, you can do all the kinds of things now that you couldn't do when you first started. The Quantum Mind Method is about taking your brain and pretending it's a bicycle and making it being able to do all kinds of things that you can't currently do, but you are capable of doing, and you will eventually be able to do automatically without even thinking about it. These are traits, these are abilities that you have within you already. We're not creating anything new, but what we are doing is we're unlocking your ability to access these things so that you can give yourself what I call supernatural abilities, but in reality, they're really just natural abilities. We have been held back from these. We don't know how the pyramids were built. Maybe we had abilities that were natural back then that we don't have anymore because we have opposable thumbs and we created tools to do everything for us. But back then we had to do it for ourselves. So we had different ways of doing things. That's what I want your brain to be like. I want your brain to go back to its ability to think of anything, to creatively get yourself out of any bad situation by understanding it's not bad. It's just a learning experience. And when you learn, you grow, you evolve. Evolution is a common practice, it's a common philosophy, it's a common process that we think of from a civilization standpoint. But in reality, from the day you're born till the day you're not born, you are evolving. And there's no reason why your brain can't evolve as well. And it needs to evolve. The Quantum Mind Method is specifically designed to allow you to evolve, to literally assist the evolution, to inspire the evolution, and it happens simply by listening. So there's so many features. This webinar would go on for ever, quite literally, because everybody's unique and everybody's going to get what is relevant and prevalent to them. But to go over just a few, we can talk about how the Quantum Mind Method is designed to help tune your brain into financial success. It can actually help you to transform your business acumen by making you capable of making quick and correct decisions at key moments, where other people will be staggering and, deer in the headlight. You will actually be taking action and moving ahead. You will have literally an unfair advantage. And it's all because your brain is more effective. Your brain is more efficient. Your brain is in better shape. Just like if you were to run or swim against an Olympian, And even if you were a good runner or a good swimmer, you wouldn't hope to keep up with them. The only reason why you can't keep up with them is because of the training. They train, you don't. The quantum mind method gives you that training that allows you to achieve that kind of Olympian status with your brain. These recordings have a purpose, and the purpose is to allow you to tap into your unconscious and your subconscious mind and to combine everything together so that they work together. You need to be able to unlock the door to your inner potential, and that enables you to become the person you really want to be, the person you're supposed to be. Because remember, we're not doing anything supernatural here, really, although it may be called that. In reality, all we're doing is we're breaking down all of the wrong lessons that we've been taught over time. We're breaking down all the wrong belief systems, and we're replacing them with the truth. And there's only one person in this world who knows your truth. And that's the person that you're looking at when you're brushing your teeth in the morning. I'm assuming you're not looking at someone else and that you're looking in the mirror. So let me clarify that, but that's what I mean. You are the only guru for you. It doesn't matter who's out there, how rich they are, they can only be an expert in their own lives. It's our jobs to inspire. It's your job to inspire yourself. The quantum mind method helps you to stop procrastinating. That is a fantastically big factor in all of our lives. Again, the deer in the headlight syndrome. We're afraid to make a move because we're afraid to succeed. We're afraid to fail. We're afraid we're going to embarrass ourselves. We're afraid this, we're afraid that. How many times have you tuned into the television or looked in the store on the shelf and saw something that you thought of 5 years ago? Right? But you've never did anything about it because you were afraid you'd be embarrassed, this, that, the other thing. How many times have you been at work in a meeting and you had an idea and you stayed quiet about it and someone else said it and they ended up getting a promotion, or they ended up getting a free dinner, or they ended up getting a car, or they ended up getting something that you could have had if only you had spoken up, if only you had honored yourself, your inspiration by speaking up. These are the kinds of things that the quantum mind method can help and can inspire you with, because you need to understand that all the negatives that these recordings help aren't really negatives. They're just perceptions of negatives. And because you're perceiving them that way, you're creating chemistry that's holding you back. When you use the quantum mind method, that will allow you to actually change that chemistry, which changes how you think and changes what you believe. When I was going through my serious depression for all those decades and then coming out of it, I have to tell you, I didn't even notice half the time that I was coming out of it because I wasn't aware. You need to be aware. When you're aware, you'll notice things. When you notice things, you'll get energy because, wow, things are different. You know, it took me a while to notice that I couldn't hear the thousands of voices. When I noticed it, I got scared because I was used to it. The devil I knew as opposed to the devil I don't know. But the truth is, it's the devil I knew as opposed to the heaven I didn't know. Now I'm used to only hearing one voice in my head, my own. I'm used to it. It's wonderful. I won't say I'm the happiest person in the world, but I'm right up there with the happiest people in the world. And I have to tell you that it's because of, the Mori method. It's because of my techniques and my philosophies and my technology that has allowed my brain the freedom to be what it's supposed to be what it was naturally evolved as. And the beautiful thing about this technology is it's not made for me. It's made for anything that has a brain. I even have some customers who play one of the tracks for rescue dogs, and it calms them down. Dogs. I mean, what can you say? It goes on and on and on. It truly does.
Awesome.
Yeah. Again, I don't have time to get into all of the benefits. These should give you an idea of what exactly can happen, what is possible. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you as to the unique things that you discover that I couldn't even have conceived of that turn into benefits for you.
Awesome. Maury, let's give them the URL where they can go to get this.
Sure. All you have to do on your device, your computer, whatever you use, is go to www.quantummindmethod.com/special. That's quantummindmethod.com/special.
All right, fantastic.
Normally, we offer this complete package for $497 or more, but today you can get it at a special price. We're offering this today for a special price of only $97. We're offering this today for a special price of only $147. We're offering this today for a special price of only $197. We're offering this today for a special price of only $247. We're offering this today for a special price of only $297. To take advantage of this special offer, please go to www.quantummindmethod.com/special. That's www.quantummindmethod.com/special. I'll see you there.
All right, everybody, that's awesome. So go to www.quantummindmethod.com/special and take advantage of this amazing offer and this deal that's going to help you improve just about any area of your life, whatever that area is, it can help for you. And if you're going to go ahead and take advantage of this offer, in between, just go ahead and type in the chat window, yes, so that we can see everybody that's taking advantage of this right now, that's going for it. All right, that's fabulous. Thanks, you guys. Oh, hey, everybody, we almost forgot. We've got some special bonuses for you guys. And if you're on the fence and this hasn't pushed you over yet, Maury, go ahead and tell them about those bonuses that you're going to add in just for purchasing today.
That'll be my pleasure, Tammy. Thank you. So actually, a lot of people don't understand how important sleep is. And sleep maybe is one of the most important aspects to your waking life, which is kind of funny because you're asleep. But sleep is when you heal mentally and physically. Sleep is when you rejuvenate. Sleep allows your body to rest and get ready for the next day. It allows your mind to do the same thing. We're including a special recording that has literally changed the lives of thousands and thousands of people. It's called Good Night, Sleep Well. It's actually designed to help retrain your sleep cycle to that of a healthy adult. This is how it works. It's quite simple, actually. I've researched sleep patterns, sleep cycles, some of you might be more familiar with. And what happens is when the average human sleeps, we sleep and go through between 4 to 7 sleep cycles an evening, depending on how long we sleep for. The first sleep cycle is always the longest and usually lasts between 80 to 90 minutes. So Good Night, Sleep Well, what that does is it holds the back of your bicycle to help you learn how to ride or how to sleep, as this may be the case. What it does is it leads your brain, you play it over a speaker at a quiet volume when you lie down to go to sleep, and it leads your brain into the beginnings of a healthy adult sleep cycle. So it takes you all the way from beta into alpha, into theta, and eventually into delta. It ends in delta, allowing your natural sleep cycle to take over. The concept behind this is that most of us, when we go to sleep, we wake up, we're not well rested. We need to have a shower or a cup of coffee before we even feel like we're human. Those are actually signs that we're not sleeping well. Believe it or not, sleep issues has been related to cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, all kinds of terrible things, simply because of sleep. So if you're experiencing sleep issues, even if you're young, that could be a precursor to cognitive issues down the road. Inability to think of words when you want them, forgetting why you're going somewhere, why you are where you are. These are more advanced cognitive issues, but they can be said to have their basis in sleep problems. Good night's sleep well could serve you very well to retrain your sleep habits and give you that restful sleep that you need to be fully healthy, fully aware, and fully sharp. That by itself, in my opinion, is worth the cost of admission, just that one recording. You listen to it very simply. You just put it over an external speaker. Now, you can't listen to it over your phone speaker or a tablet or a computer, but any kind of Bluetooth or wired speaker, doesn't have to be expensive. You just plug it into your device, you hit play it at a very quiet volume, and you play it once. It leads you through the first half of the sleep cycle, and with training, with experience, your sleep cycle adapts and adjusts. Because we're teaching it the first half of a healthy sleep cycle, it kind of recalibrates your sleep cycle. We've had a lot of benefits and a lot of good results with this recording. The second recording we have is incredibly grounding. It's called the Schumann resonance. And this bonus is designed to bring you into a very grounded state. We live very hectic lifestyles. We are always in a state of upheaval. And this particular recording does amazing things to bring you into a state of peace and quiet. The Schumann resonance is a vibrational frequency that encompasses the entire planet. This is how you grew up. This is how our race evolved, with this generalized frequency umbrellaing, surrounding the planet Earth. That's why this system is so, so, so important. This recording is so important to help bring everything else together in order to help you, to help yourself, to feel grounded, to feel calm. Let's face it, people who panic don't do very well in emergencies or in any situation. People who are calm, on the other hand, tend to be the leaders. They tend to be those who are looked to for leadership. If you want to be a leader, if you want to lead yourself, the Schumann resonance is mandatory, and it's free when you purchase the Quantum Mind method.
All right, fantastic. So you can go to www.quantummindmethod.com/special and take advantage of that special price and get these additional bonuses. Thank you so much, Maury. That's really, really generous, and we truly appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. You know, every time I see someone smile, it makes me feel good. And if I can even be a very small part of helping someone to feel even a little bit better, it touches me. It's really why I do this. Because I went through what I went through, and to give it meaning, I had to learn a lot. And to give it real meaning, I had to share what I learned. And that's what I do with this technology.
Awesome.
This system is for people who want to be happy, who want to be healthy, who want everything that they've ever wanted, quite literally. Money isn't holding you back. Relationships aren't holding you back. The only thing that's holding you back is your brain. And with the Quantum Mind method, it doesn't have to hold you back anymore either. So, I'm sure you can see, after I've listed the various benefits you might be able to expect and so many others that I couldn't possibly get into, that this is a very small investment, especially for the return that you can get. We've talked throughout this webinar on the various benefits and the various needs for benefits that we all have. But in reality, you have it within you to access your own promised land. And all you need is a key. And the quantum mind method can very easily allow you to create that key. It's my fervent belief that the only person who could possibly have this key is you. So the trick becomes showing you where it is. I can't possibly know where it is. And that's why I designed the system to help you, help yourself to find that, to access it, and then to take action on it. All of this and so much more can be yours with a very minimal commitment of your time. Quite literally, minimal listening instructions involve one recording, which is about 30 minutes once a day, and on alternate days, adding another 30-minute recording. So essentially, you're really talking about very little time. A 30-minute listening on one day, and then 2 times 30-minute listenings the next day. And you rotate through that until you achieve what you want to achieve. Keep in mind that you may be saying to yourself, wow, committing an hour a day or half an hour a day to this takes away so much of my time. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, do yourself a favor. And after you purchase this product, take 2 days or 3 days before you start and just record on a piece of paper everything you do over those 2 or 3 days. You will find that there is more than enough time in your day to do something that you want to do and that you need to do to evolve your life. Remember something, you're here. There's a reason why you're here. You're watching this webinar. There's a reason why you're watching this webinar. Honor yourself, honor your desires, and change your habit just a little to change your life a lot.
Yeah, this is absolutely a gift that you're giving yourself. And if it's important to you, you're going to make time for it.
That's it, exactly. And why are you here if it's not important to you? Believe me, it's so easy to do. It's a joy to do. Not just because of the results you get, the effects that you feel while you're doing it are worth it. Getting the benefits are almost a supreme bonus after that. And I'm living proof of the bonus. There's thousands and thousands of people all over the world who see the effects and the benefits of their own brains, of their own minds. And this is a facilitator, if you will. It's a friend that helps you to achieve what you need to achieve and what you can achieve. And I think you'll find that even when you've achieved what you want, you'll still listen, and you'll still listen regularly, because why limit yourself to where your improvements are? Why stop yourself from growing and changing?
All right, so everybody go to www.quantummindmethod.com/special to take advantage of this special offer.
Oh, there's one other thing that I wanted to mention to people, because I get this question a lot. How long is it going to take to see results? That's a pretty important question, actually. Everybody's different. So I can't specifically tell you 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 days, 25 minutes. I can tell you that the changes start happening right from the first time you listen, especially if you commit to listening regularly. If you commit to yourself, because remember, you can think of it as committing to listening to these recordings, or you can think of it as I'm committing to myself. Commit to yourself, because that's really why you're here, and that's really why you're going to do this. On average, I have noticed personally through my test subjects and through my customers and clients over the years that using this system properly, and even to its minimal listening, so that's half an hour one day and 2 times 30 minutes the next day, people pretty much will see noticeable results as long as they're looking for them, because remember, we only look for bad things. I'm asking you to start looking for good things, but people will start noticing benefits in as early as the first time they listen, and at the longest within, say, 6 weeks. But you have to commit to yourself. You have to realize that you're wasting a lot of time, and you don't need to waste that time. Keep in mind that I'm not asking you to run a marathon. I'm not asking you to pull out dry scientific literature and study it. The work involved is really as simple as putting on some headphones, pressing play, closing your eyes, and lying back. How hard is that? You can commit to that, I think.
Yeah, I think we can all commit to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's awesome, Maury. Thank you so much for all of those wonderful bonuses. Oh, we forgot about one more bonus. We told everybody if they stayed till the end,
Right.
they were going to get an extra bonus.
That's true. We have a special recording that I don't sell. And because I don't sell it, this is very exclusive to you folks. It's called The Connection. And I'm sure you can see by my naming mechanisms that I tend to give a description in the name for everything I do. So what The Connection does is it connects you. It connects you to your environment. It connects you to other people. It connects you, more importantly, to yourself. It connects your conscious, subconscious, unconscious, and every aspect of yourself together. It allows you to be at peace, to ask questions of yourself and to get answers that are meaningful. It allows you to get that energy that results from not having the struggle of fighting the different facets of your existence. So many people take no action because they're afraid to take any action because they're not sure. And the reason why there's uncertainty is because you're not connecting to all facets of your thought processes and of who and what you truly are. The connection gives you that bridge that joins the various islands together and allows them to communicate with each other and to get along communicating. Like, just because you have 4 people in a room doesn't mean they're going to get along, but the connection allows you to get along with all facets of yourself. It will give you the ability to literally connect to your inner wisdom, to connect to your inner self, to connect to your higher self, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want, simply through intention to achieve, it can help you to achieve. The nice thing about bonuses when it comes to products like brainwave entrainment and the quantum mind method is that you're not just getting a bonus. A lot of products, you get a bonus. It's nice, you get a bonus. I got a wine glass. That's nice, it's a bonus. It's nice, it's a beautiful wine glass, but it has nothing to do with the thing you bought in the first place. It's not relevant. With these recordings, and with everything I do for that matter, they're what I call synergistically compatible. What that means is that using one helps augment the effectiveness of the other. It doesn't mean it's necessary to get good effects, but it does mean you are truly getting a bonus, because with these bonuses and with these extra recordings, they all work together because they're all massaging your brain. They're all working your brain. They're all exercising your brain, and in different ways. I realize it's a little hard to wrap your head around these things, so let me use an example that makes more sense to most people. You're exercising. So you go to a health club. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of 5-pound weights because I'm out of shape, and I'm going to do this. And that's all I do when I'm working out. Nothing else. I'm sitting on a chair and I'm doing this. Well, over time, if I do it regularly, my arms, my wrists will probably get stronger, right? Because I am using those muscles regularly. But I'm doing nothing here. I'm doing nothing on my legs. I'm doing nothing on my glutes or my pec, nothing. I'm just exercising the muscles that are being used doing this motion. When you have other exercises incorporated, it gives you a more holistic approach to your whole body. It gives you a more holistic approach to your whole brain when it comes to entrainment. So you don't necessarily need other aspects, but other types of brainwave entrainment recordings, as long as they're professionally and properly engineered, will allow your brain even more range, even more access, even more ability. And what will you get? Well, we talked about some of the things that you'll get. The rest of them, you're going to have to tell me, because it is incredible when I get testimonials from people. They're all listening to the same thing, but you'd swear they all have a different product. And it's because they're using it properly, and their brain is what's being unlocked here. It's not what I'm doing. I'm not giving you specific talents. I'm giving you a tool, like a dumbbell, like a saw, you know, like a hammer, a tool that you can use, that if you use it properly, you can create wonderful things. And that's all you need to do, is use it properly. And I showed you how to use it properly. It's as easy as lying down and putting on some headphones. Doesn't get much easier than that.
All right, fantastic. So let's just recap here. So you guys can pick up the Quantum Mind Method for that really low price. You get the extra bonuses, which are the Schumann Resonance and Good Night Sleep Well. And just for staying to the end, it has nothing to do with the product package, but you also get the connection bonus. But in order to take advantage of the special offer, go to quantummindmethod.com/special. And we just, I mean, Maury is such an amazing teacher, and I'm in awe of what he's created and what it came from. And I'm such a huge fan, and I really want everybody out there to get this work, and in order to change your life for the better. And we are so excited, looking forward to hearing back from all of you guys who are using this to see how it's affecting your life. And the sky's the limit here, folks.
Not even a limit. There truly is no limit. And once you wrap your head around that, and again, the entrainment will help you to remove that block that makes you think the sky is the limit. Look, we've supposedly put a man on the moon, right? Yep. The sky may have used to be the limit. So let's talk about it that way. The sky used to be the limit. Now there is no limit.
So you can become limitless by using this method. So awesome. Well, Maury, is there any last thoughts you want to leave with everybody, or are we ready to close everything out here today?
Well, I think we're ready to close things out, but if I had to leave a thought, I'd just like to say that your success, your joy, your wealth, your health, your relationships, your happiness is all a choice. Make the choice to be happy and do the things that allow you to achieve that choice. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you everybody for coming and watching today. This is a special presentation. We're here with Maury Zelkovich. My name is Tammy Lawman. I'm honored to have been the host for this webinar, and we are so glad you came in, and we hope you got a lot out of this information today.
I'd like to thank everybody personally also for being here. And, you know, I always end my emails with my clients and customers and friends with, I'm here for you. And I don't lie about that. I'm truly here for you. I realize that, you know, we're not offering apples and oranges that everybody knows about. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything like that, let us know. And they will come directly to me. And I promise you, I will answer them.
All right, fabulous. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks again.